Well, top of the morning to you. This is our wrestling tribute to St. Patty's Day. And I am Angelo Odisipio. Oh, man. Welcome to Wrestling with the Future, everybody. Tonight, I'm joined by my co host, as I am each and every week, Amelia Crackerjacker. Amelia Crackerjacker Jatman. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm I'm getting some of Scott Casey's leftover right now.
That's what I was gonna say. Did he gonna forward you
I'll
some?
tell everybody in a minute. And we are also joined by a longtime friend of the show. He is a walking encyclopedia, this man, Nikita Brezhnikov. He is the
Great.
author of When It Was Real. You see it up
Oh.
on your screen, and behind me, When
Mhm.
It Was Real. I should
Thank
tell people, Nikita, first of all, Nikita, thank you for joining us on literally the 11th hour's notice.
Yes, thank you
Um,
so much.
My
should
pleasure.
tell people that we had scheduled and we're advertising Scott Teal, a noted wrestling author. Scott Teal was supposed to be with us, but Scott, and then we give him kudos, had a commitment to his church group. That
Mhm.
comes first before the show. And we applaud Scott for putting God first, and that's the way it should be. And so, joining us tonight is Nikita Brezhnikov to talk about, Nikki, some of the greatest Irish wrestlers of all time.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yes.
And there's been a few of them. What do you know about the history of Irish wrestlers, in particularly the Northeast of the country?
Well, I'm going to throw the biggest name out to both of you. McMahon. How about that one?
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And he wrestled. He counts, Vince.
Mhm.
He
Got it.
does. You don't get any more
Mhm.
Irish than
Then yep.
First of all, a vast difference between McMahon generations.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Certainly, Vince McMahon Sr., affectionately referred to as the old man,
Mhm.
and he was a great guy. But and then there's, of course, Vince Jr., who took
Mhm.
what his father created and pretty much decimated it,
Mhm.
and in the process created $1 billion empire. Now, I don't know if that's good or bad. You know, they say, what
Mhm.
profit a man to gain the world and lose your soul? But I'll tell you what, I really think that Vince did as much damage to the wrestling business as he did good. But he certainly is probably the most famous Irishman in wrestling. Let's just be honest about it. Nikita's right.
Mhm.
Amen.
You know,
Absolutely.
McMahon. But
Mr.
I'll tell you,
McMahon. Yes.
we have to pay tribute on this special day to some of the best Irish wrestlers of all time. You know, when you think of Irish wrestlers, of course, you know the first thing that comes to my mind is a mutual friend of Nikki and I, our friend Davey O'Hannon,
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
and of course, you know, I broke in good, okay, because my first match was Davey O'Hannon and Irish Pat Barrett. So you
Mhm.
don't get any more Irish than that.
No.
Madison Square Garden, Nikki, 1974.
Beautiful.
Irish Pat Barrett and Irish Davey O'Hannon.
Now, see, this is a
So,
good segue because, and you and I have talked about this on my page. I do not dislike Irish Pat Barrett. I never said I dislike him. I did
Right.
not like the team of Dominic DeNucci and Irish Pat Barrett after Victor Rivera left. It was like, you're going to give us this guy, Irish Pat Barrett, after Victor Rivera? It ain't flying, man. Forget
No,
it.
man.
Mhm.
Especially in an area, and Nikki, we have to be upfront about it. The Northeast is a very territorial area.
Sure.
Puerto Ricans,
Mhm.
Italians, Greeks, uh, you know, it's the UN,
Yes.
you know, and
Mhm.
no shortage of Irishmen for sure. But by that point, you and I both agree that Pat Barrett was well beyond his years at that point wrestling. He started his career in 1958, 59. And we're talking about, he's still wrestling mid 70s, late 70s.
Right.
So I think he overstayed his welcome just a bit. In fact, Nikki, there's going to be a couple of pictures you'll see tonight. I'm sure you'll have something to say about it. So without any further ado, let's just get right into our little slideshow. We got a lot to talk about tonight, okay?
All right.
Nikita, take a look at this.
I was thinking of Velvet. You better believe it. That's perfect.
Yes.
She
Velvet
is
McIntyre.
She's a sweetheart and a great worker.
Yes, she
Now, this
is.
guy, I've got nothing on him. I have no idea.
This is Sheamus, believe it or
Yeah.
not, and you can check this out for yourself. Honest to God,
Yes.
he is the ranked the number one Irish wrestler of all time.
Yes. He
I
held
can't make this up.
4 times. He held the World Championship belt for WWE.
Yeah, sure did.
Mm-hmm.
Sure did. And ranked number one.
He ran number
our
1.
friend, Irish Pat Barrett. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Nikki, you'll notice that that he let the hair grow out for a bit. He's a
That's
guy
the
in
same
his
man?
early. Yeah, that's Irish Pat Barrett, and you're going to see in a moment that for
Phew.
sure. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
I can't make this up.
I would have lost money on that one. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he let his hair grow out. He's okay now. He's 52 years old in this picture. Okay, he's 52, 53 in this photo, taken at like 79, 80ish around there.
Mm-hmm.
Right before the dawn of the Hulk Hogan era, right? And clearly out of his element. You can see that. But again, a guy that wasn't afraid to, how you want to say, reinvent himself.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because you're going to see, and another guy here that wasn't afraid to reinvent himself was Dave Finlay, also called Finlay.
Gotcha.
Interesting guy here, Nikki. What do you know about Jordan Devlin?
Absolutely nothing.
What do you know about
I'm no good with the new generation. I know nothing of them.
Yeah, well, you're not alone in that, brother. I had to do my research. I really did.
Good looking athletes, God bless all of them for stepping in there. But I shut the door and look at it. This guy, he looks kind of thin, but I guess he can get it done.
Yeah, well, this is Finn Balor. He's kind of the thing right now. Finn Balor. Amelia, what do you know about Finn?
Yeah, he's upcoming, barely getting started, but he's really trying to get up there with become famous. He looks just almost like the other guy that you were just showing. They kind of look like brothers.
He sure does. He kind of reminds you of the Jordan Devlin.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Finn Balor is a guy who made a little noise and then kind of,
Kinda
like they do in WWE, they kind of pulled them off the rails a bit. Killian Dane. Nikki, this is another guy from NXT. Killian Dane. There seems to be, for whatever reason, Nikita, an influx of young, strapping Irish lads making their way through NXT. Because you're going to see several of them tonight.
Interesting.
Killian Dane is one. He's an interesting guy because people really like him, but he's not kind of he's really not a face. He's kind of like a heel.
Yeah.
Because Dave Finlay, this is how I remember Finlay.
Yeah. Yeah, Finlay trained Cena, and Orton Tristratus was one of the ones he actually trained.
An amazing trainer, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I heard or know him more as a trainer than anything. Yeah.
Now, these two guys are not Irish at all, but I just like the Crusher and Bruiser. And so that's why I threw them in. And how can you not love Crusher and Bruiser?
And I love the name Dick the Bruiser. I mean, one of the all-time classics.
Yeah. Great guys, I'll tell you what.
And how many names does he have on his roll call?
Yeah, brother. No kidding, right? Eddie Sharkey. This is the guy who, if you don't know who Eddie Sharkey is, he's the guy who gave us Rick Rude,
Mhm.
Kurt Hennig. He gave us the
Yes.
Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal. He
Mhm.
gave us Barry Darso
Yes.
Of Demolition. He gave us and also Crusher Khrushchev. He
Mhm.
gave us one oh who else did he give us? Oh, the Warlord. Thank you.
Yes.
And
He gave
one
us the
more,
Warlord.
Bob Backlund.
Bob
Mhm.
Backlund. Hot damn. And you
Mhm.
know what? It's funny you should say that, Nikita, because old Mr. Backlund is coming up. He's coming up
Yeah,
shortly.
I thought he was Irish. I wasn't positive.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Because
and
he always marched in the parade. Well, Becky Lynch, I mean, I've seen her because she's, good looking,
Mhm.
but I don't know much about her.
this
Dano
guy,
There he
O'Mahony.
is.
yeah, Dano O'Mahony. This is the
Mhm.
gentleman I told you about.
Now look at the builds back then. And this
Yeah,
guy can break those
Yeah.
kids in half, I'm sure.
yeah, and it's funny because this is the only known photo of him.
Yeah.
It's the only known photo of Dano O'Mahony in wrestling attire. I can find nothing else other than he was quite the thing back in the day. There's not a whole lot on him. He wrestled in the 40s through the
Mhm.
early 50s, and then he just disappeared kind of as quickly as he came.
He passed away in a real bad car accident on November 3rd in 1956, if I'm not mistaken.
That's okay. That explains it.
Yeah.
There again is Jordan Devlin looking very much like Finn Balor.
Mhm.
And that's another thing that concerns me, Nikita, is that these guys look like each other.
Mhm.
And they got to be junior heavyweight division.
Yes, that's a
Yeah.
junior heavyweight, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's, what? Here you go. Two Irish lads together, Backlund and Valentine.
No, not Valentine.
No,
No, Polska
oh
Valentine.
my God!
Yeah.
Wisniewski is his real name. Yes.
Mhm.
For the record, I searched the greatest Irish wrestlers of all time, and Greg Valentine was on the list.
Yes.
Really?
He was on the list. Yes,
Mhm.
sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wild.
sir.
But the
That's
Bob
it's
Backlund, I
funny.
kind of thought was, yeah.
Bob
And he,
Backlund was one of those guys, Nikki. You and I have seen him probably
oof,
5 or 6 dozen times in person, probably at least.
yes.
And Bob always looked like his body never matched his head. He just had this muscular body, but looked like a doofus. But man, he could work.
Now, I know
Bob
he
could
used
really
to
work.
march in the St. Patrick's Day parades in Boston for many a year, too, after he was out of the business.
Yeah. Rebecca Quinn, of course, Becky Lynch. She is truly Irish. One
Take
of
the
my
bulldog
favorite.
out.
Yep, one of my favorite people in the
Mhm.
world. A true Irishman, Richard Dick the Bulldog Brower.
And
He's
thank you
one
for
of my
that picture, because that's when he was Bulldog Brower.
yes, and of course we remember Bulldog was one of the first unorthodox. Here you go. Here's the
Yeah.
one of the first unorthodox wrestlers that kind of threw caution to the wind. This guy, he just didn't care.
Nope.
Because
He just.
the
But
79
then
run,
again,
the 79 run was painful to watch. I wish they had.
yeah. There you go,
Okay.
and Nikita again.
Now I can
Irish,
see. Yeah. I remember
Irish.
this Pat Barrett. Now I could see how he would transform like maybe 4 or 5 years or more into the future, but I get it now. Okay.
Yeah, he was pulling the hair out. He was doing the whole trying to remember. And it was really sad to watch too. Kind of like it was with Spiros Arion. As when he was getting older, it was painful to watch him get older because he didn't want to let go. It seemed like, and of course, then we're back to the beginning with with Velvet. But interestingly enough, Nikki, you had these. I'm going to put Nikki over here. you had these people we've come to know. A lot of them, I had no idea that some of them were Irish, quite frankly. It's interesting though, even in the kayfabe generation, when you put in Irish wrestlers and a guy like Valentine pops up, who's Polish.
Absolutely Polish, yes.
Yeah.
And I had no idea he was Polish.
Now, here's a couple of other names. Blackjack Mulligan was supposed to be Irish. He's got the name, even though Wyndham was his birth name, but because he had a pub, I believe, up in New Jersey. Because I did some research on it because I'm thinking, Mulligan, would he have carried that? It's possible that he was. Kevin Sullivan certainly was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But now, what I know about Kevin Sullivan is only his WWF run, which it wasn't much, and then whatever he did in Florida, I don't have any idea. I never saw Florida.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know that Kevin had some talks with Vince McMahon. I know that he never actually wrestled for Vince Jr. He did wrestle for Vince Sr. Pre WWF days,
right?
Worldwide Wrestling Federation. He wrestled some matches at the Philadelphia Arena. Of course, certainly Madison Square Garden, Boston Garden for sure, that we know. And I believe before the Baltimore Civic Center, he may have actually wrestled at the Cap Center in Maryland.
Yes.
And so that's what I know about Kevin. Kevin is certainly a legend in the wrestling business. Even now, he's regarded as the elder statesman of pro wrestling, and as he should be. He and J.J. Dillon are probably akin to like the president and vice president of wrestling, if you want to call it like that. They certainly are, between the two of them, a treasure trove of information and knowledge for certain. JJ alone is, I could just sit back, Nikki, and listen to JJ Dillon just talk about his career, But what do you know about the plight of Irish wrestlers, Nikki?
Not much, other than it was another gimmick on the menu, which was fine. I mean, it's not to knock anybody, but I mean, when you say Irish Davey O'Hannon, and he was the Texas Brass Knuckles champion, I don't think they developed him well enough, only because there wasn't room and time. They were overloaded with a lot of talent at that time, and it was kind of like, and maybe he didn't have a sponsor. You needed a sponsor. You know this, okay? Behind the doors.
Oh God, yeah, sure.
To really push and get you up there. But people now, what do you know about Pat McGuinness? Because he was a real tough son of a bitch, inside and out.
Yeah,
and that's what stopped him in his tracks. I understand he had a big mouth and was ready to go at it with everybody and anybody, and that was like.
I'll tell you what I know, actually. Ron Fuller, the Tennessee Stud, Ron Fuller, was here on the show. In fact, just about a year ago around this time. Talked about a guy, might have been McGuinness, it might have been Pat McGuinness that he spoke of. That was, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't think I am, though. Didn't Pat McGuinness go from town to town challenging the local tough guys?
I believe that's true, yes.
Because if that's the case, then Ron Fuller, Tennessee Stud Ron Fuller, told that story of his grandfather working with Pat McGuinness in different towns in the Midwest. They would earn a living like that. For lack of a better word, how do I want to say, extracting the local tough guy, bringing him out, so to speak. And then working in tandem, I believe, is what they used to do. It's no secret in wrestling, folks, and that wrestling came from the carnival, so it should be no secret that there were shills involved at some point. So back in the day, just to give away a little wrestling history here, shills were often used to extract the tough guy, and then the shooter would come in behind him, beat the guy up, take their money, and go to the next town. That's what Pat McGinnis used to do.
Makes sense. Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I know about Pat.
Now I'm going to throw another name.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not sure that he's Irish, but Dave McGinty, the Bear Man. I'm not sure, but it sounds like he could be. And we all know the Bear Man.
Yeah, brother, you got me on that one. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's beyond me. I thought I knew a lot.
God
Wow.
rest his soul, but he was instrumental in the Valiant Brothers becoming the Valiant Brothers because he passed the information on to Bobby Heenan, who got the information to Dick the Bruiser, and then they had a tryout. Jimmy was already established as Jimmy Valiant. So
Yes.
Johnny's running around as John Sullivan. So
Yes.
September the 7th, 1973 in Pittsburgh, Bruno and Dick the Bruiser, they're going to have a tag match. So they said, all right, bring these guys in. Let's put them together. Let's see what they look like. And because I got and when it was real, I've got the clip from that night. And it was John L. Sullivan and Jimmy Valiant. And when Dick the Bruiser saw them in action, he's like, you're coming with me to Chicago next week. And that was it. They went to WGN.
Yeah.
They were on television, and whoosh, they took off.
I'm smiling, Nick, because as you're telling that story, I'm recalling that story. It's actually in Jimmy's book. It's actually in Jimmy Valiant's book called Woo Mercy Daddy, the Jimmy Valiant story. I know this because I'm in Jimmy's book also, page 564.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. Jimmy put me in this book. I was so proud. It's interesting. He told that story, and again, it's perhaps serendipitous that the Crusher and Bruiser were in our video presentation tonight. Because Jimmy has said on the show many times, he said in many interviews, were it not for Dick the Bruiser and to some extent the Crusher, there might not have been a Jimmy Valiant. You may not know who he is now.
Exactly. Chicago was hot. It was a hotbed. Actually, when Fred Kohler was running Chicago, he was part of the NWA, and he broke away with Vince and Toots Month, and then they went and formed the WWF in 1992.
Yeah.
They got, I don't know what the heat was all about, but I know what it was. The Fez. They didn't want Fez when
it had everything to do with Sam Mushnick wanted the National Wrestling Alliance to be recognized as the singular championship in the world. And he wanted to make sure that his money was on Lou Thesz. He cultivated Lou Thesz as a champion. He had been around a long time. By that point, and we're talking 1962, Lou Thesz was up in years then.
Yeah, exactly.
When I met Lou Thesz and we had lunch together, he was in his 80s. He was, I don't know, 81, 82. I believe he was anyway. I actually have the photos. If you give me a second, I'll actually get them. But yeah, I actually have pictures with Lou Thesz.
Very good.
Yeah, and
see, the story I heard was that they didn't think he would be marketable. Kind of like Vince with Bob Backlund. It's like, all right, we're going to be doing this entertainment thing. Do you want to do something? And Backlund's like, no, I'm Bob Backlund. I'm a wrestler. I don't do any of this other stuff. So it's like, okay, see ya. Here's your ticket. You're gone.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened with Thesz. So they gave it to Buddy Rogers as their first champion. And then, I don't know, here's where you can catch all kind of hell over it. Did Buddy Rogers have a heart attack? Did Bruno put him in the backbreaker? I don't know. But only a couple people know what really happened. We weren't.
Well, I'm going to break kayfabe for you. I know what happened. Buddy faked a heart attack. He did not have a heart attack. Bruno had validated and verified that Buddy wrestled every night up until that night, and even the night before the Garden Show. He wrestled all that week. They would, and you know, Nikita, the New York State Athletic Commission, even in fact more so then, because they actually considered it a sport then. That the commission would never have allowed Buddy Rogers to step foot in that ring in the Garden.
Agreed.
They would never have let him in. They wouldn't have let him in the building. And if you listen to Buddy Rogers' story, which is fucking ludicrous, pardon my first F-bomb of the night, sorry, folks, is that they said, he said that they brought him into the Garden on a stretcher.
Oh my God.
Well, that's absolutely ludicrous. They would have never did that, especially in New York. They had an athletic commission. You understand what we're talking about? An athletic commission.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And they weren't on the take, and they didn't like people that were on the take.
No, and they were not smart back then, because Nikolai told me a lot of the times the referees weren't even smart. They didn't know what the hell was going on.
They weren't smart. And Bruno validated that fact as well, that the referees were licensed, certified New York State Athletic Commission personnel.
Yes.
That many of them didn't even know the rules of wrestling. They just knew count the pin, count the corner. That's it. Count the 5, count the 3. And that, they pin or they kick out.
And you had some tough son of a bitches like Danny Bartfield. You can pick up a lot of his comments with the ring mics. I mean, he didn't take any shit. He wanted you to break. He wanted you break. That's it. You're out. Yeah. And it was like, I like that. It gives the legitimacy to the whole thing, and it's perfect.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So
that's why I call it true fiction, because it's like, it had to be organized and controlled. Otherwise, you'd have a new champion every couple of days. Or
yeah, right.
Right.
Like,
I know, right?
But they're still in there. They're still competing. They're still very physical, and it just played out beautifully.
Yeah.
Well,
or they get hurt. One of the two.
You see behind me, most people watching this right now can see behind me Nikita's book cover, When It Was Real. Again, we were supposed to have Scott Teal tonight, and what you're looking at is a hodgepodge of Scott Teal's books. Among them, When It Was Real, mostly written by Nikita Brezhnikov, and even Scott Teal says that.
Yes, and the reason it says with, I can elaborate. We collaborated for about 2 years on the project.
Yeah.
And because Scott said, Nikita, with your vernacular, it's written like police reports. This will never work. Let me take the clay and manipulate it. I said, yeah, beautiful. He said, I'll run everything by you. We never had a crossword or any arguments. It's like everything is here. So that's perfect. I thanked him because Scott said, I'm more of a Southern boy. I don't really know a lot about the East Coast, but I'm learning. So he actually edited the book for free. We had an editor do the official editing for the vernacular of it all, Jason Priestley. But Scott was like, I'm really enjoying this. But he enlightened me on some things, like Ken Patera in 1978, when I believed he was injured. It's like, oh no, Nikita, he was in Charlotte that night. He got mad and said, screw you. He wanted to have the belt. He was another one. Superstar didn't want to give it to Backlund, and Patera felt like he should have got it. And it's like, guys, it doesn't work like that. Patera, you had a run. You're at the end of the run.
Oh, Superstar hated Bob.
Hated him. For all the guys that get up there and scream, if they would have turned him face, he could have gone on. It's like, wait a minute. We're talking about the guy that stole the belt from the most beloved champion in history from Bruno. You can't just have us accept this guy now after Bruno chasing him for a year. It's like,
exactly. I fervently believe even today, even to this day, how many years later, Nikita, right? That
Yes.
if they had allowed, if you know, the problem was, and I guess it's a problem to us fans, but it wasn't a problem to Vince McMahon Sr. because they said if the man gave you his word, he was a man of his word. If he shook hands,
Mhm.
you know, it was like a concrete. It wasn't going to broke. Okay.
No. No.
Here's the thing, though. He promised Bob Backlund he'd be champion.
You're right.
He gave him a date, and he gave him a start date and an end date, and he stuck to it. And by
Yeah.
God, he did.
Yes.
But the
Mhm.
problem is, had he forgot about that and listened to us fans at the time, I believe, and I really honestly believe it in my heart and soul, that next to Bruno, Superstar would have been the most beloved champion in history. With
He was-
Bruno and then Superstar right under him. Because Bruno, he was untouchable.
Right.
You knew he was a face through and through. But what if, and it's a big what if we could talk about if you want to, but what if Superstar, who was the most dreaded heel at that point, what if he turned face and avenged Bruno's enemies? And what if they joined together to tag? That could have been amazing. That could have been historical.
He was
Yeah.
cool as a heel. You know, it's like a guy you hate him for what he is, but he's too cool to really go all the way and hate.
Yeah,
Because
I
he's
know.
fun to watch. And then one night in Baltimore, yeah, you can throw a T-shirt. Okay, that's fine. He took a $75 leather cap and threw it to the crowd, and it's like, wow. And
Yeah.
a guy named David Lopatin, who used to write for the wrestling for the programs Norman Keitzer would put out for the arenas.
Yes.
He did the local version, and he said, yeah, I talked to the guy that got the cap, and it's like, this is a legitimate leather cap that Superstar threw out. And it's like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
wow, that's crazy.
Mhm.
But he did it, you know.
Yeah, $75 for a cap was a lot of money
Yeah.
back then.
Yes,
And
it
when
was.
we walked to the ring with the guys, because you were able to get close, the Superstar would give you that flex, and you could feel his arm, and it's like, he's cool.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. He's just
Yeah,
cool.
he was.
Mhm.
He was. This guy was. And I'm sorry, Amelia.
No,
But
you're fine. I'm
Superstar was-
learning a lot from you guys. Thank
Superstar
you.
Graham was twisted steel and sex appeal long before Gino Hernandez. Sorry, baby, but he was.
No, but I'm
Absolutely.
learning a lot from you guys too, because it's like when you were talking about you could get near
Man.
the wrestlers and stuff like that. Because I remember going up to the Ultimate Warrior one time, and I remember I had turned 18, and they had come to Odessa, Texas, and we're excited because finally we got wrestling here, and it was gonna be televised. And I remember going to the brick wall, and you could just jump down. Me and my friend Misty, and they were like, "Oh my God, there's Ultimate Warrior. How are you?" And there's the police, like, "Stay away, girls, stay away, girls." And he's like, "No, it's fine, it's fine. He can come down." He goes, "By the way, how old are you?" We're like 18. "You got ID?" I was like, "Yeah, why?" He would make sure we're 18. And he goes, "Yeah, by the
You
way, we
got
have
ID?
this."
He asked you
Yeah,
for ID.
yes, he did. The Ultimate Warrior did, yes. And he
Oh
goes,
my God,
he's
Nikita,
like,
could you imagine
just
that?
to make sure. And he says, "We're staying at the so and so hotel. You guys can come over later." And I'm like, "Aren't you married?" He goes, "Does it matter?" I was like, "No,
Oh
I
my
guess not."
God.
And
Oh jeez.
yes. And we were like, "Guess we'll see you later then." He goes, "Yeah, but we never showed up." But it was like, oh
Amelia
my God.
telling tales out of school. Oh my God.
But can you believe
Holy
that?
crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we
Wow.
believe it, Ange? I don't know, man.
But we looked at each other like, okay. So we left. But I mean, can you believe that? I was like, "You got ID?" It's like, why would you ask that?
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Hmm.
Nikita, something like that would never happen today. It
No,
would never happen.
nothing like that
No,
today.
it would today, that's for sure. It's
Mm-mm.
definitely, you know, you got good and bad, and today everybody is watched.
Yes.
You know, they try to stay on best behavior. Where years ago, it's like, well, you traveled on your own, right? The company
Yeah.
wasn't paying for your transportation, so you did
No.
whatever you wanted in between.
Yeah, not even for your meals or hotels, nothing. You
I'm
pay
going to
for
throw
all of that on your own.
2 more names out.
Go
Rick
ahead.
McGraw.
Mhm.
Oh
Every,
God, yeah.
you
Mhm.
know, this guy, unfortunately, I think if he was 2 or 3 inches taller, he would have been a superstar. He was just too
Mhm.
damn short.
Yeah, quick draw, Rick McGraw.
Yes, I remember that name.
That story was a
Mhm.
young guy from South Carolina.
Yep.
Mhm.
Jack to the gills. Jack
Yes.
to the gills.
What a powerhouse.
Whoa, yeah, big thing. Small guy, 5'7",
Yeah.
Mhm.
maybe 5'8", but I don't even think he was
Mhm.
5'8".
No,
No.
almost. Not yet.
Short guy, but just jacked up. I mean,
Mm.
really
Bruno
built
was
well.
pushing it. Bruno was about 5'9" with lifts, and that's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's it. But he was the gorilla. He could kill you.
Oh my
He
God,
might
yeah,
attack. But McGraw was pretty solid, without a doubt.
yeah.
But I think he was too pumped, whereas
Mhm.
Bruno had the look of, oh my God, if this guy's mad at me,
Bruno was a brute.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's the thing, Nikki. Bruno was a brute. Amelia, do you know who Bruno was?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you, of course, you know who Rick McGraw was.
Yes.
Bruno he wasn't like cut muscular, but
Mm-mm.
he was just a big, solid powerhouse, barrel
Yes.
chested. He had traps on his neck that looked
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
like
it was like
they looked
yeah.
like boulders. Yeah.
Mhm.
He was, but he could hurt you,
and
like
when
Yeah.
you see
legit hurt
when
you.
you would when you would see him in street clothes, then it was like, holy shit, you'd have to shoot
You
that.
were like, what is that
Yeah,
padding? But it's not really
exactly.
I don't think a
He
gun would stop him even.
It's funny because
Yeah.
Bruno's one of the few guys that looked bigger in his street clothes than he did in his
Yeah.
wrestling trunks.
I think he had to have
But
those special made, I think.
Rick McGraw was a sad case. Rick McGraw,
Hmm.
again, he was pumped to the gills, but it wasn't a natural pump.
No,
He
it
had
wasn't.
he was a steroid
Yes.
advocate. He took them, a lot of them apparently. Um, the the story at the time was that he had a heart attack. Uh, you know, in the ring. That wasn't the case. What happened was he broke his neck in the ring
Yes.
in a match with Roddy Piper. In fact, it
Mhm.
was after that Roddy Piper went away for a few years,
Mhm.
if you remember.
Hmm.
He went away for almost 3 years and didn't return for about 3 years
Mhm.
because he couldn't deal with the fact that for all intents and purposes, he killed his guy. Is basically what happened. Um, that segue from Rick McGaw to Roddy Piper was intentional because we are going to have Roddy's daughter Ariel on the show in about
Yay.
2 weeks.
Beautiful.
Ariel Toombs will be with us here, thanks to Greg Gilbert, the Python from Python's Paradise. Thank you, Greg. I love you more than pizza. And we will have Mr. Piper's daughter here, and we'll talk to her a little bit. And but Roddy had a real hard time dealing with that. He blamed himself for Rick McGraw's passing,
Mhm.
and I don't know if you ever heard that before, Nikki, but that's a shoot.
No, I
Yeah,
didn't
that
know. I know McGraw had a broken neck, but I didn't know the circumstances.
well, the problem was he broke his neck at a live event, and he was in recuperation for it, and then he was away for a long time. He came back to wrestle against doctor's advice, AMA, against medical advice.
Mhm.
And his first match back was with Roddy Piper, as fate would have it. And that broke his neck. I was going to say re-injured, but no, it didn't injure his neck. It broke it. His
Mhm.
neck was broke in that ring.
Hmm.
When they carried that man out of the ring that night on TV, he was gone. He was already gone. And so yeah, sad case, yes, absolutely. But a lesson to be learned, yes. If you can't wrestle, don't. Please don't. If you're injured, if you're hurt, don't work. Your health is far more important, far too important.
The body is so unforgiving. It's like
Yes.
you may
Yes,
be
it is.
okay in your 20s and 30s, but
Mm-hmm.
come 40, you start to know at
No.
50, forget it. It's a train wreck. 60s, you're in agony. It's like, it's
Yeah.
never going to leave you. You're taking this body to the grave with you, so you better take good
Mm-hmm.
care of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Now, I got
Definitely.
one more
Absolutely.
name. See
Yes,
if
sir.
you know anything about this guy, Ange. He went by Irish Terry Gunn. Definitely
I know
jobber
that
all the
name.
way.
Yes, sir. That I know that name.
1981, and he wore a lot of Irish gimmick, even as a jobber, which was kind
Yeah.
of like, this is over the top, and he ain't going anywhere. But he was on TV in the arenas quite a bit for.
I remember Irish Terry Dunn, and I'll tell you the match that I remember the most because he got the shit beat out of him. Irish Terry Dunn versus Big Bobby Duncombe.
Woo!
And
Hmm.
Bobby Duncombe decimated him, crushed him like a beer can. He just decimated this poor guy. An enhancement guy, yes. A good enhancement guy, absolutely. And for his time, a kind of a colorful character for an enhancement guy. Back when they were called, you used the word jobber. There are people who will get mad at you now for saying jobber. Those
Yeah,
guys took it as a badge of honor, man.
Wow.
yes.
It was a badge of honor to be called a jobber. A jobber was literally one who did a job. And for those of you who don't know, let's get a little history and wrestling semantics here. Jabaroni is an Italian word, means one who does a job. From that, jabaroni became jabroni. That's where we get jabroni. How do we know? Jabroni is a jobber. Why? Because jobber comes from the derivative. I'll get it. Hold on. From the derivative of jabroni. Anyway, I have digressed now.
And let me make something very clear.
Yes, sir.
Ooh, hold on, let me cut that
Yep,
off because
take that call.
that was my original, Lord. Very clear. Everybody did it. Chief put over Waldo Von Erich in 1975 in
Yeah.
39 seconds. It was
Yeah.
the job. He was going to go do it because the Chief. I was dear friends with him, Amelia, at the last 10 years of his life. So he said, I said, well, look, Walter, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. You just jump me from behind. I'll still have all my gear on. I'll go over the top, and that's it. And then Bruno came out, helped carry Chief back to the dressing room. Guess who Bruno wrestled the next month? Waldo Von Erich.
Von Erich, yes.
Wow.
Job for somebody. You had to.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. I remember seeing Chief first time I ever got up close enough to pat him on the back. My hand stuck to his back because he was a sweaty mess. It was at the Cherry Hill Arena. It mentioned,
Wow.
by the way, probably the only place you'll hear the Cherry Hill Arena mentioned is in Nikita Brezhnikov's book, When It Was Real. Because nobody else knows where the Cherry Hill Arena was. But it was a hockey venue. It was the home of the New Jersey Devils at that time farm club hockey team. Now the New Jersey Devils are a legit NHL team, with all the bells and whistles. But that place was great for wrestling. It was perfect for wrestling.
And it was either probably promoted or co-promoted by Gorilla Monsoon because that was his backyard too.
Well, it's funny because Gorilla did work that. And remember, Buddy Wagner, Charles Buddy Wagner it's funny. And I had this conversation with Gary Capetta. Buddy Wagner was out front taking the tickets.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. And it was interesting, the psychology of wrestling, how it works. You got to see this guy out front taking the ticket money. You saw him on TV. And then when the show started, you saw him in the middle of the ring with the microphone. So you already had a relationship with him. Okay, people didn't understand it. That's what wrestling is. It's a symbiotic relationship between the participants and the fans.
Oh yeah.
We could get close to the Chief and Gorilla and
Yes.
Bruno.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get near these guys now.
Not
You'll
anymore.
be
You can't. No.
arrested. They'll throw
Well,
you in jail for stalking somebody or trying to attack someone. It's craziness.
and it was taken so seriously when
Oh
you
my
say
God, yeah.
relationship. There were stabbings like Blackjack Mulligan up in Boston,
Mm-hmm.
May
Yeah.
15th,
Yes.
1971. But they came, Amelia, not it just wasn't spurred a moment. The guy that
Mhm.
stabbed him had dipped the knife in pig fat before he came to the arena.
What?
So when
Are
they
you
stabbed
kidding?
him, he developed a horrible infection.
He's telling you the truth.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Telling you the truth.
gosh.
And had Gorilla Monsoon that acted quickly and wrapped his leg with a towel, he might have bled to death.
Yeah.
Oh my
He
god.
developed a bad infection because of the pig
Yeah.
fat. And Mulligan was out for about 3 months. So then Bruno brought him into the guard and worked with him when he started to get back on his feet and give him a quick payday.
Yeah.
Because it's like, man,
Oh my gosh.
it didn't work.
Oh,
He
yeah.
didn't get paid, you know?
Yeah, he's telling you the
Jeez.
truth. That's absolutely true.
Oh my
Absolutely
god.
true. Yeah.
Arion
It
was
sure was.
stabbed in the Philadelphia arena. It wasn't severe, but he got stabbed in the chest on his way back because after
Yeah.
he turned on Bruno and Chief, it's like,
Mm.
we were crazy. We were into
Well,
it. We loved and hated at the same time.
Jimmy Valiant was on the show talking about how people,
Jeez.
when he came out of the Philadelphia arena, how people were throwing bricks at his car.
Jeez.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
remember something. The parking for the boys was in the back of the arena.
Yes, right.
The
With
public parked up front and on the side, but the boys came in the back, right?
the
So
dressing
you
rooms
had
were
to know
right.
where they were coming in at.
Mhm.
And a lot of the fans, especially the smarter fans at the time, they would like get there early and like hang out by the fence because the parking lot in the back of the arena was fenced in.
They didn't have anything blocking the fence, or it was just a
No.
regular fence?
No, it was you could
Wow.
scale it. You remember something? You're in the city, Philly.
Mhm.
That was
Those-
half the fun to get there early and watch them come in.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
Nikki
'cause
knows what I'm talking
as a
about.
fan now, this is what we did. Because I'll tell you what, I'm positive I met The Rock when he was a little kid. Because in Baltimore, you had to push the bell and it would ring inside and then they would lift the door. It would come up. So Rocky Johnson pulls up and he's got a little kid with him. It had to be his son. So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know who else he'd be traveling with. So I probably met The Rock when he was a little kid. So I said, "Oh, Rock, I'll push the button." Of course, they called his father Rock at that time, Rocky Johnson. So I pushed the
Amelia,
bell.
keep Nikita occupied for a minute. Folks, I'm going to excuse myself for just a second. I'm going to come back with some pictures.
Okay.
Good pictures there. Get them pictures. But see, there was a double-edged sword because you didn't want to, you don't want to miss the action, so you wouldn't leave your seat. But whoever was on last had to face the wrath of the crowd. So one night, it was
Oh,
Ivan
geez.
Koloff, poor Uncle Ivan, who he was a sweet man, but he played a horrible villain in the ring, and he did it well. So it was near the end. It said, we hear the doors start to come up. It's like, who is it? Who is it? So somebody, it's Koloff. Everybody gets their ammunition ready, and he could hear him
Oh
coming.
no.
These crazy bastards. As soon as that door just cleared the hood, he took off. He's getting hit with everything like a machine gun. He went the wrong way on a major venue to get away from the crazy fans of Baltimore.
Oh my gosh. Because at the Coliseum, that where I know what you're talking about, because we didn't have any fencing in where with the Coliseum. There'd only be the side doors where the heels would come in, and the good guys would come in. So there was a security. They'd just knock on the door. That's how the wrestlers would come in. The security guard would stand right there, just in a regular seat, and he'd let everybody in. We'd come in, and we'd be like, me and Lucy Rodriguez would come in because she would be with Manny Fernandez. So they'd let us in because we were with her. We're like, hey, hello, we were here. So they let us in, and then so he'd hurry up. They said, hurry up, because they'd make sure we had tickets. Well, we don't have tickets, so they go, okay, come on in. So that's how we'd get in. There was no fencing around.
Nikki, Philadelphia Spectrum, Nikki.
Yes, sir.
Show starts at 8 o'clock at night.
Okay.
The show starts at 8 o'clock at night.
Yes.
This photo was taken at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Oh wow.
That's Hulk Hogan. That's
Who's
how
talking
early we
to?
used to get
Cal
there.
Rudman?
Wow.
That's yeah, Hulk Hogan and Cal Rudman. It's interesting you should say that because Cal Rudman was my mentor. Cal was the guy that got me.
Ooh.
That used to get my
Sorry.
that sent me
Ah.
backstage passes. He was the guy that got me in. Here's another one for you, Nikki.
So you get there at 2:00 in the afternoon, and it was 8:00 at night was when it would start.
There's myself, Fred Blassie, Killer Kowalski, and my niece.
Oh
Wow.
wow.
You got some good company there, brother.
Yes, sir.
That is cool.
Wow.
Here's
That's cool.
here's a name from the past. Colt Steele from the National Wrestling Alliance.
Got
Wow.
nothing from him, but
Here's one for you, Nikki. Lou Thez.
wow.
Oh wow.
There he is.
I got another one of Lou Thez for you, Nikki. One of your favorite people. Check this out. Dennis Carluzzo.
Hey, my man Dennis. Where's the ice?
Rest in peace, Dennis.
Yes.
Dennis
had to be through.
Carluzzo, and he actually passed away not too long after that photo was taken.
Wow.
Yeah, that was at the NWA Cauliflower Alley Club in Cherry Hill, New Jersey in '99, Nikki.
Okay. Surprised I wasn't there. Wow. Because I was running all over Jersey then.
Oh, I know you were.
Wow. And love.
Myself and Jim Cornette.
Oh.
There's a wild man. Jeez.
Here's one for you. The original Pit Bulls. Gary Wolf and Anthony and oh god, I forget the other guy's name.
Oh, that's Mike.
There's Johnny Hotbody back here.
Yeah, but with the face paint, that's Mike.
Yes,
King Kalua. Yeah.
yep, sure is.
Very good.
I got. You mentioned The Rock. Here's a young man. Back in the day. Whoop, here you go. Very, very young at the time. Young man, Dwayne Johnson.
Yes. Always a good natured, cool guy.
This guy, I can tell you, I took a picture of this guy because he had on a Bruno shirt. I told the guy how much I liked his shirt. Nikki, I swear to you. He went in the men's room, took his shirt off, and gave it to me.
Oh.
He honestly
Wow.
did. He gave his shirt to me.
Shirt off the back. How about that?
Yeah. I got some other stuff to show. Where is it? Oh my God, where the hell is it?
Very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff.
And Amelia, that's all we had back then for merchandise.
Yeah.
Maybe a T-shirt and a program. That was it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that they basically when I was there at the rest, all we had was like the 8x10 pictures, and they didn't even charge us back then to get autographs either. It's like, here, can I have an autograph or even a piece of paper we could find? They'd autograph it for us.
Yeah, get an autograph now. It'll cost you $100.
Oh yeah.
It's great,
I
yeah.
remember, we would see Bruno and people like that outside. They would
Mhm.
stop. Bob Backlund was the best, especially at the Spectrum, coming and going. He would definitely, because he'd say, I would
Mhm.
require everybody to ask, can I please have your autograph? And he said, I would not turn down anybody. So,
I remember my parents have one of that I got from the Ultimate Warrior somewhere at the house, at my parents' house somewhere. And I remember having one of Shawn Michaels, and I think I have one of Scott Casey somewhere. They have it all saved up somewhere in their house somewhere.
I think Sheik
Here's-
got an autograph from Ultimate Warrior one time, didn't he?
Yeah,
The Iron Sheik.
I did. I was like, I made sure to get that. That was all I got, and that's all I made sure to get.
I know
This
that.
is Kevin
Mr.
Nash.
Oh wow!
My daughter was getting Kevin Nash's autograph. I stood right next to him side by side and took his picture, and he looked at me like, what the hell are you doing up on this stage? And who let you up here, and why didn't you pay? But you mentioned Amelia, just a moment ago,
Uh huh.
Shawn Michaels.
Yes.
Um,
That's when
I
he was a
actually
nice
have
guy.
something. I actually have something to show you. Here it is. Here it is. Hot damn.
That's when he was real short hair, Southwest Championship Wrestling guy. Kind of, he was already starting out before, but I guess it was starting out again in the Southwest Championship Wrestling.
This was Shawn Michaels at the Spectrum with Big Daddy Cool Diesel, Kevin Nash.
Hmm. Oh yeah, this is
Yep.
when he started his cocky days.
I
I
got
remember.
right up to the ring. I was the second row from the ring, and I actually got like right up to the ring.
Hmm.
That when you could back then.
Yeah, yeah, I
Now
got
now
that
the
one.
guardrail is like 30 feet away. You
Hmm.
can't get anywhere near it.
Yeah.
But Nikita, oh
Yes.
man, it's always walk down memory lane when you join me,
Hmm.
and I get invigorated and I get sad all at the same time because I want my old days back and I
Yeah.
want somebody to talk wrestling with, and it saddens me. That's the biggest thing, Nikki. It saddens me that I can't talk my love of wrestling with anyone because there's no really good wrestling anymore.
No.
I agree with you. I have the same problem. Yep.
Yeah.
There's a few
I don't know how
that are left.
people. I don't know how people, with all due respect to him, I don't know how people like Evan Ginsberg, who I know is a very dear friend of yours, and I say his name purposely. I don't know how Evan keeps his enthusiasm for the business. I really don't. He finds joy in some of the most, I think, mundane things, but he's a tried and true wrestling fan.
I tell you why, because I've been with Evan. He loves music, art, because we did a couple of shows in the East Village over the years, non-wrestling, just
Right.
different things,
Oh,
and you're going to
sure.
find art, you're going to find in the East Village, believe me. It's as wild as it can be. They talk about pop art. This is poop art. This is crazy stuff, man. But
Yeah.
it's neat. It was a cool experience. So Evan can pull out the artistic in just about anything.
Hmm.
Yeah.
He is on top of what's happening today.
Yeah.
But me, no thanks. Not interested.
Yeah. I mean, I'm into, I'm probably this. The interesting thing, the strange thing actually, is that I'm probably more like Evan than he even realizes. Because I love artsy fartsy stuff. I really do. I love the avant garde. I love the nouveau riche. I love the East Village. I haven't been there in years, literally. Greenwich Village, Soho.
Hmm.
I haven't been to the villages in forever. But
Evan used to be on WBAI out of New York City with a guy named Fred Giabold. Fred,
yeah,
God rest his soul, passed on. And they would bring in indie musicians and give
yeah.
them an opportunity to be heard. And a lot of people caught on from that. And it was like,
Well, yeah, brother. I'm telling you what. I know. Trust me. I worked for the Joe Franklin show
oh,
back
beautiful.
in the day. You know, I was an associate producer for the Joe Franklin show way back when. As an apprentice associate producer. I was still learning the television business back then.
But this was
And
1 a.m, but it didn't matter. Like they say, the city never sleeps. So we would go do the show live. We'd
yeah,
all be crammed into the studio, doing our stuff. And then
yeah.
we go to Chinatown and have good to eat, have a nice,
And
beautiful.
there was Chinese food to be ate till 4 o'clock in the morning, man.
Wow.
Even St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
I miss my corned beef and
Man, I
cabbage
tell you
this
what.
year.
I love it when Nikita Brezhnikov comes to visit. We had a
Hmm.
wrestling salute to St. Patty's Day.
Hmm.
My Irish friends.
Oh, yeah.
So Amelia, what's
Yes.
coming up for Wrestling with the Future? What we got going on?
Let's see. We got coming up. Let's see. I have that written down because you told me to. No, just kidding.
Yes.
He's not that bossy.
Bossy. You're a shit, you know that?
No, we got Gary O'Hannon coming up, and
Yes,
then we've
next
got
week.
Python Greg Gilbert coming up.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, next week Nikita will be here with Davey Johann, we're going to go back
Mm-hmm.
to old school, and I
Mm-hmm.
get to reminisce once again with my buddies.
Boy, that's
Yes.
going to be a beaut too.
And I get to learn some more.
And what's that?
Well,
I get to learn some more.
Yes, absolutely. From three old farts.
with Davey for sure, because that guy, I mean, he is the heart and soul of what these arenas, if they could talk,
Mm-hmm.
Davey's got the message.
Amen, brother. I'll tell you
Yes.
what. I love me some Davey O'Hannon. He's a
Mm-hmm.
great guy.
Yes.
He really, really is. He's a hell of a guy. And Amelia, you'll get to meet him for the first time next week. Davey is a
Absolutely.
great guy. I'm going to speak to him probably Tuesday to
Mm-hmm.
remind him about Thursday, because if you don't, Davey's a great, but he forgets.
Yeah, we're
He's a
gonna
little forgetful.
hopefully we
Well,
get to
look at
schedule
me.
Johnny
I'm
Ray
an
soon.
hour behind. Luckily, I was here. It's like, oh, crap.
And
I'm
that surprised me. I
later.
said, Nikki's always on time. I said,
Mhm.
Nikita's always on time.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get to schedule Johnny Ray again soon, and then we'll have Mark Sotkin coming up soon.
Mark Sotkin will be here
Mhm.
April the 5th. Mark Sotkin was the producer and writer
Mhm.
of The Golden Girls. He was a writer on Laverne and Shirley,
Mhm.
among many television shows and film.
Mhm.
His credits are, he's actually coming back for the third time
Mhm.
on our show. He's been here twice before, and always a really interesting guest, and
Mhm.
always filled with stories. And I'm going to try and get him to tell some Betty White stories. We just lost Betty White,
Yeah.
and I'm going to try and get Mark to talk a little bit about Betty, and what kind of
And
person she was to work
you
with.
yourself will be interviewed very soon about the show.
I will be interviewed by, it's Nikita. You might be interested in this. I think, in fact, after we're off the air, and don't go anywhere, I'm talking about something. Slasher Scotty will be interviewing me on April 15th for his podcast. He is a horror film director and producer. He has a film company, and I should know this, and I don't have it in front of me, damn it. But I will get it for you. Slasher Scotty. Check him out on, his name is Scott McCoy. Check him out on Facebook, Slasher Scotty's Films. And I will be his guest on April 15th on his podcast. Thank you again to Greg Gilbert for setting that one up. And thank you, Greg, for hooking me up with Ariel Toombs, Roddy Piper's daughter. She
Mhm.
will be on the show in a couple of weeks. Fascinating young lady. I can't wait to sit down and talk to her. Nikki, do you have something to promote? Anything you want to tell people about? Any new films coming out?
Not yet. I'm good right now, but when the time is right, I'll let everybody know.
Fabulous. Amelia, anything to promote? Your social media? Tell everybody.
Just you can reach me at Amelia Valerio Chapman on Facebook or aachap70@gmail.com, or here with you on Tuesday and Thursday nights.
You will absolutely be with me every Tuesday and Thursday. We have a new show called What's the Buzz?
Mhm.
And it's an interesting show, Nikki, if you've never seen it. What's the Buzz is not a wrestling show. It's a current events, politics, what's happening in the news, kind of a smorgasbord of everything except wrestling. And so that's What's the Buzz. And we've got some really interesting guests. We're actually going to, if we're allowed to do it, we're not, I don't know if I'm allowed to do it yet, but if it comes to pass, we will be interviewing Frankie Citro, the man called Little Frankie C. He is barred from every casino in the world, literally. He is not allowed in any casino anywhere in the world. Frankie Citro is a former mob figure associated with the not Las Vegas Casino Gaming Board. I guess they call it the Casino Control Board. And he has been banned for life from every casino in Nevada.
And when you walk in the door, they know you're walking in the door. Every camera is on you. So, oh, yeah.
That's Frankie. Yes, absolutely.
I'd
That's Frankie.
be interested in that show for political things, and because with the 27 years I did with Baltimore police, I was on the
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah,
of
Amelia never knew that
politics.
about you. Amelia,
Mhm,
Nikita was a Baltimore City police officer and detective.
Oh, awesome.
You're
I
a
almost,
retired detective now, Nikki. Or you still working
Yeah.
a detective?
I'm retired. I don't do any of that anymore.
I almost studied. I almost went to school to study forensics. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, she was going to go to school for law enforcement and forensics.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, we could
I
have a
almost-
nice talk about politics.
Yeah.
DRI, it's all the same bullshit. They don't care. They just care about the green stuff. That's it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You and I are just like dog shit on their shoes. They scrape us off and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on that note, kudos to my friend Nikki Breznikov, Nikita. He
You
is the
got it,
author
brother.
of When It Was Real.
Yes.
And for my co-host, Amelia Chapman, Amelia Firecracker Chapman, I am Mad Dog DeCipio, saying take care, goodbye, we love you, and we'll see you next time on Wrestling with the Future. Take
Thank
care,
you.
everybody. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.